have liked Luna for 9 years. If I had to trace it back to a starting point, it was probably that March in the second semester of my sophomore year. The magnolia trees outside the classroom window were half in bloom, and I was sitting in the third row by the window, lost in a daze. Our homeroom teacher, Carter, led in a girl. She stood on the podium and scanned the classroom. Unlike other transfer students who seemed nervous and ill at ease, she looked as if she were choosing a seat. Luna. She introduced herself. She didn't even mention her hobbies or special talents. Someone in the back row muttered, "So cool." But I didn't think so. I just thought her voice sounded nice. Carter pointed to the empty seat behind me, and as she walked over, I caught a faint scent of fruit candy. That class was math. I'm bad at math, and as I listened, my mind started to wander. The magnolia flowers outside the window, the sound of basketball on the playground, the ponytail of the girl in the desk in front of me. Anything was more interesting than functions. Then someone poked me from behind. "Classmate, can I borrow an eraser?" I turned around. Her eyes were bright as she pointed to the eraser on my desk. I handed it to her. She wiped twice and gave it back, her fingers brushing against mine. Cool. Just like that. I started wondering why her fingers were so cool. I was still thinking about it when the bell rang. Jake, who sits in front of me, asked me to play ball, and I said no. He leaned over and asked if I hadn't understood the math lesson. I said no. He glanced at me, shrugged, and walked away. I sat in my seat staring at that eraser. White, half-used, no different from before. But I just kept staring at it. From behind came the sound of her talking to her deskmate. She was asking which cafeteria window served good food. Her deskmate said the sweet and sour pork at window 3, but you have to go early. I listened, feeling a bit strange inside. She had just arrived and was already asking about the cafeteria, yet I had been at this school for nearly 2 years and didn't even know which windows were good. That afternoon, I looked back at her 3 times. The first time, I pretended to look at the blackboard, my peripheral vision sweeping over her as she lay on her desk writing, sunlight falling on her hair. The second time was during the break. She was chatting and laughing with her deskmate, and when I heard her laugh, my heart suddenly felt sour. The third time was after school. She was packing her bag, her ponytail taken down and tied up again. Then she stood up and walked past me. "See you tomorrow," she said. I froze and looked up. She was already at the door. "See you tomorrow," I said softly, but she didn't seem to hear me. That night I had a dream. In it, she was taking an exam and poked me from behind to borrow an eraser. I handed it to her, and as she was erasing, she looked up and asked, "Do you like me?" I woke up, my heart racing, and lay in bed thinking for a while. Like? What is like? All I knew was that the next day, I wanted to get to school early. The next morning, I arrived 20 minutes earlier than usual. There were only a few people in the classroom. I sat down, put my school bag into my desk, and started waiting. Waiting for what? I didn't know either. At 7:40, she walked in through the back door, paused for a moment when she saw me. "You're here so early." "Yeah," I said. She walked behind me and sat down, starting to pack her things. I sat in front, pretending to read, but I couldn't take in a single word. I was listening to the sounds of her packing. The zipping, the books, the pencil case. Then she poked me. "Hey, what's your name?" I turned around. Her eyes were very bright. "Noah. Noah." She repeated it and smiled. "I'll remember you." I froze. Just because I lent her an eraser? "What about you?" I asked. "What's your name?" She looked a bit surprised. "Didn't I introduce myself yesterday?" "I know. I just wanted to hear it again." She smiled. "Luna." I looked at her and suddenly felt she wasn't distant at all. She was sitting right behind me, close enough that I could smell the fruity candy scent on her. "Noah," she said. Do you have an eraser? Lend it to me again." I handed it over. She took it, lowered her head to erase something, then handed it back. "Thanks, you're so nice." I turned back and stared at the book. Something quietly sprouted in my heart. After that day, I started noticing many things. When she came to school, what clothes she wore, who she talked to, and what she looked like when she smiled. I used to think a classroom was just a classroom, and classmates were just classmates. There was nothing special about classes starting or ending. But now it was different. I hoped she would poke me, hoped she would ask to borrow something from me, hoped she would talk to me, even if it was just lend me an eraser, move over a bit, or see you tomorrow. I sat in front of her with my back to her, but I could feel her behind me. That feeling was chimel, as if something was pulling me, making me want to turn around. Yet I didn't dare turn back, afraid she would catch me looking at her. I made a rule for myself. Every time she dropped her pen, I would pick it up for her. It sounds silly, but that was the only legitimate interaction between her and me. In our sophomore year, she didn't drop her pen that often, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. The pen would roll off the desk and fall to the floor, sometimes rolling to my feet, sometimes into the aisle. No matter where it rolled, I would bend down to pick it up. The first time I picked up a pen for her, I hadn't set any rules yet. It was purely a reflex. As soon as the sound of the pen hitting the floor rang out, I lowered my head, picked it up, and handed it to her. She took the pen and smiled at me. Not a polite, courteous smile, but the kind where her eyes crinkled and the corners of her mouth turned up. I turned around, my heart beating fast. Then I thought, if only she dropped her pen every day. The idea was too despicable, but I couldn't help myself. Later, I discovered a pattern to when she dropped her pen. It happened most often in math class because she was good at math and solved problems quickly. Once she finished, she would twirl her pen for fun. It happened the least in Chinese class because she listened attentively and rarely wrote. In English class, it was occasional. She liked to tap her pen on the desk while memorizing words. Jake asked why I was staring at her pen. I said I was just observant. He asked, "Then how do you know she drops her pen the most in math class?" I opened my mouth but couldn't say anything. He sighed and patted me on the shoulder. "Bro, you're done for." Maybe. But I think this feeling of being done for feels pretty good. When I picked up the pen for her, I could see her hand. Her fingers were slender, her nails neatly trimmed, and she wasn't wearing any nail polish. When she took the pen, her fingertips brushed against my palm, as light as the wind, yet I could remember it all day. Sometimes when I bent down to pick up the pen, I happened to meet her gaze, and her eyes would shine with a smile. "Dropped it again? Do I drop pens that easily?" "Not really." "Then why do you help me pick it up every time?" I froze. She looked at me, waiting for my answer. "Because when it falls on the ground, it's not convenient for you to pick it up." She smiled. "Noah, you really are a good person." A good person. That word, like a nail, was driven into my heart. In senior year, we changed seats. They were arranged by grades. She sat in the 3rd row by the window, and I sat in the 5th row against the wall. 2 rows and an aisle separated us. That afternoon, her pen dropped. I watched her bend down and pick it up herself. She didn't look back. I sat in my seat staring at her back as she bent over, and a piece of my heart went empty. That had been the only connection between us, and now it was broken. But then something happened. During evening self-study, I was working on a math paper when I heard a soft sound. The sound of a pen hitting the floor. I looked up instinctively. Her pen had rolled into the aisle, out of her reach. I stood up, walked over, bent down to pick it up, and handed it to her. She looked up at me, a bit surprised. "How did you know I dropped my pen?" "I heard it." "Your hearing is that good?" "Yeah." She took the pen and looked at me. "Noah, you sit so far away. Do you hear it every time I drop my pen?" I thought for a moment. "I can hear it." She smiled. It wasn't "you're amazing," but rather as if she understood something I hadn't said out loud. "Then I'll count on you when I drop my pen from now on." "Okay." I walked back to my seat and sat down, my heart beating fast. Jake leaned over from the side. "Are you sick or something? You can hear someone drop a pen from 2 rows away. Good observation skills." "Good observation skills my ass, you just like her." I didn't say anything because I couldn't refute it. On the day the Gaokao ended, everyone was signing each other's uniforms, taking photos, and crying in the classroom. I didn't cry. I was looking for her. She was surrounded by a crowd, smiling brightly, as if the Gaokao was just an ordinary thing. I stood watching her from a distance, wanting to walk over and say something to her, even if it was just, "How did it go?" Then she saw me. "Noah, come here." I walked over. She handed me her uniform. "Sign the back. Make it big." I took the pen, found a blank space, and wrote Noah. After thinking for a moment, I added a small line underneath. "Every time you drop your pen, I'm there." I wrote it very small, so small it was almost illegible. "Thanks." She took back her uniform without turning it over to look at the back. "See you at college?" "See you at college?" "Yeah, I applied to Nanchang University." She looked at me. "What about you?" "I applied to Nanchang too. Actually, I originally wanted to apply to Beijing. Beijing University has a better program and is closer to home. But after I knew she was applying to Nanchang, I changed my application." She smiled. "See you at college." "Yeah, see you at college." During our 4 years of college, we were in different majors. She studied law, I studied computer science. Our classroom buildings were half a campus apart, and the cafeterias weren't in the same zone either. But we met often because she was always dropping her pen. In the cafeteria, she would place her pen on the edge of her tray, and as soon as she pushed the tray, the pen would roll off. I bent down to pick it up. "Are you doing this on purpose?" "If you say so." She took the pen, her fingertips brushing against my palm, the corners of her mouth curving into a slight smile. Just like in high school, nothing had changed. I never counted how many times I picked up her pen during our 4 years of college. But there are certain moments I remember vividly. Autumn of freshman year, the library. She was asleep at the desk, her fingers relaxed, and the pen slipped from her palm, rolling to my feet. I picked it up and gently placed it back beside her hand. When she woke up, she stared at that pen for a few seconds, then turned her head to see me sitting opposite her. She didn't say a word, simply gripping that pen in her palm for the entire afternoon. Winter of sophomore year in the study room. She was on the verge of a breakdown while writing her final paper. She slammed her pen onto the desk, and it bounced up and landed by my feet. She had called me over to help review the literature review. I bent down to pick it up and handed it back to her. She snatched it away and said in a muffled voice, "I hate law." I said, "I know." She looked up. "Then why do you know nothing, yet know everything?" I opened my mouth but said nothing. In the end, I just unscrewed the cap and handed the pen back to her. She lowered her head to glance at it, took it and continued writing. Spring of junior year on the playground. I was drinking water on the sidelines after playing ball when she waved at me from the stands. I walked over and she held out her palm. A pen lay resting in it. "Yours," she said. I froze for a moment, then took it. There was a sticky note on the barrel of the pen with a smiley face drawn on it. I remembered that last time in the cafeteria, she had left her pen with me, and I hadn't returned it. "How did you know I dropped this pen?" I asked. She tilted her head to look at me and smiled. "With so many pens in your pocket, can you even tell which one is mine?" I looked down at my jacket pocket. There were indeed 3 or 4 pens inside, but I recognized hers. There was a faint bite mark on the barrel, something she did when she was nervous. I didn't say anything, just put the pen in my pocket and said, "I can tell them apart." She smiled and didn't ask any further. That summer of our senior year, she told me she had received an offer from London. In the bubble tea shop, there was a lemon tea in front of her, and an untouched Americano in front of me. 1 year for the masters. I'll be back as soon as I finish. A year. Maybe 2. She lowered her head. Or 3. I didn't speak. She looked up at me. "Noah, why aren't you saying anything?" I wanted to say don't go. "I'll miss you. I've liked you for 6 years starting from the day you sat behind me and borrowed my eraser." But I said nothing. "Congratulations," I said. She looked at me with a hint of disappointment. "Thanks." That night Jake was playing a game, and without turning his head he asked, "Luna is going abroad? How do you know?" "Your feelings are obvious to the whole world except to her. She doesn't know." "Are you sure?" I didn't say anything. Jake turned around and looked at me for a while. "Noah, what exactly are you waiting for?" "What am I waiting for? Perhaps waiting for the right moment. A moment that won't end in failure. waiting for her to speak first. But she won't speak first because she only sees me as a friend, as the person who picks up her pen. After that, I started writing a letter. Handwritten. I bought a new pen and stationery, sat in the dorm, and wrote it word by word. I wrote it many times. 3 pages was too melodramatic, so I tore it up. 1 page was too blunt, so I tore it up. 2 pages wasn't enough yet too much, so I tore it up. The 4th time took me all night, from Luna to Noah. Writing about the first time I picked up her pen, her fingertips brushing my palm, hearing her drop her pen from 2 rows away after we changed seats in senior year. Every single moment throughout our 4 years of college. Finally, I wrote, "I like you," starting from the day I borrowed your eraser. Then I folded the letter, put it in an envelope, wrote her name on it, and placed it in my drawer, because I still didn't have the courage to give it to her. At the graduation ceremony, she was wearing her academic gown and taking photos in the crowd. I stood in the distance, clutching the envelope, already crumpled from my grip. I wanted to walk over and give it to her, but she was surrounded by too many people. Then she saw me, ran over and grabbed my sleeve. "Come take a picture." She pulled me under the plane tree. "Smile," said the student holding the phone. Couldn't smile. She linked her arm through mine. "Noah, smile." I smiled. In that photo, she was beaming as she held on to me, while I smiled stiffly at the camera, but my eyes were on her. After the ceremony, she told me she was leaving the day after tomorrow. I said I'd see her off, but she said no need. The airport was far away. I said again that I'd see her off. She glanced at me and nodded, "Okay." That night, I took the letter out of the drawer, read it one more time, and put it in my pocket. Tomorrow I will definitely give it to her. It's been 6 years. For 6 years, I picked up her pen for her, watched her back as she walked away, and saved up 6 years' worth of words to write in that letter. Tomorrow I'm going to give her the letter. Then, no matter what she says, I'll accept it. The ride to the airport was long. I chose to take a taxi because I wanted to spend a little more time with her. She wore a white t-shirt and jeans, carrying a backpack, with a silver gray suitcase beside her covered in stickers. I took the suitcase. "Is this everything?" "There's one more thing my roommate is mailing for me." "What did you pack?" "Books and snacks." "What kind of snacks?" "Leche. They don't have leche in the UK?" "No, so I brought a lot." We both laughed, and then we both stopped laughing, because this was me seeing her off to the airport. In the taxi, she leaned against the window looking out, and I was looking at her. The letter was in my pocket, pressed against my left chest. I could feel its shape. I touched the envelope, then touched it again. She turned her head. "What are you touching?" "Nothing." The car got on the highway, and outside the window there were only gray guardrails and green noise barriers. "What are you looking at?" "Nothing, just looking. Because I won't be able to see it anymore." I didn't speak. She turned around. "Noah, why aren't you talking?" "I'm thinking about something." "Thinking about what?" "Thinking of you. Thinking of this letter. Thinking about whether I should really give it to you." "Work stuff." "You found a job?" "Where?" "Nanching. An internet company." "Still in Nanching? Didn't you say you wanted to go back to your hometown?" "Changed my mind." She glanced at me and didn't say anything. Halfway there, she answered the phone. "Mom, I'm on the way." "Yeah, Noah is driving me." "Right, that Noah. The one who picked up my pen for me." She smiled. I don't know what was said on the other end, but she smiled happily. "Okay. I'll call you when I get there. Mom, don't cry." "Okay, okay." She hung up, her eyes slightly red. "Your mom cried?" "No. She's just a bit reluctant to let me go." "Reluctant to let me go." I looked at her, thinking that she isn't the only one who is reluctant to let you go. The radio was playing an old song. She hummed along for a few lines, then suddenly stopped. "Noah, do you think we can still be like this in the future?" "Like what?" "Like you in front and me behind, you picking up my pen and me lending you my eraser." "Who will pick up your pen for you when you get to the UK?" She laughed. "I'll pick it up myself." "Can you pick it up?" "If I can't pick it up, I'll just buy another one." "Anyway," she paused. "Anyway, there's no one like you. When I drop my pen, you notice it before I do. I open my mouth, wanting to say that it was because I like you, that it was because I was always watching you, that it was because my attention was never on the pen. But I only said, study hard when you get to the UK. Don't keep dropping your pen. I'll try. And remember to eat. She looked at me, seeming a bit disappointed. That's all. That's all. She turned her head to look out the window. Oh, 10 minutes away from the airport. My hands started to tremble. The letter was still in my pocket, pressed against my left chest, my heart beating fast with every thump. I was wondering whether to take it out now, while we hadn't arrived yet, while there was still time, while she was still beside me. I reached my hand into my pocket and felt the envelope, gripped it, took a deep breath. We're almost there, she said. My hand stiffened and I stuffed the envelope back in. We arrived at the airport. Check-in, baggage drop, security. With every checkpoint passed, I drew one step closer to losing her. After she passed security, she looked back at me. Just wait here. Wait outside security. Okay. Noah. Thank you for bringing me here. You're welcome. And, she paused. Thank you for picking up my pen for 6 years. I froze. She smiled. I'm going. Then she turned and walked toward the boarding gate. I stood there watching her retreating figure. Her ponytail swayed back and forth, her backpack straps were a bit loose, and the way she walked was exactly the same as in high school. My hand reached into my pocket and touched the envelope. Take it out. Take it out now. Call her name. Give her the letter. Tell her you've liked her for 6 years. Tell her you don't want her to go. Luna! I shouted. She stopped. She turned her head and looked at me across the security line, the crowd, and a distance of over a dozen meters. What's wrong? I opened my mouth. The letter was clenched in my pocket, my knuckles turning white. Say it, Noah. Have a safe trip, I said. She looked at me as if waiting for something. 3 seconds, 5 seconds. Then she smiled. Yeah, have a safe trip. She turned and walked away. I stood there watching her figure grow smaller and smaller until she disappeared around the corner. My hand was still clutching the envelope. I hadn't taken it out. I stood there for a long time, long enough that the people around me changed several times, the announcements in the departure hall changed 7 or 8 times, and my legs started to go numb. The letter was still in my pocket. I hadn't given it to her. I hadn't given it to her again. I looked down at the word Luna on the envelope, which I had spent a long time writing. Then I turned the letter over. It wasn't sealed. After a moment's hesitation, I unfolded the paper. There were still sweat stains from my fingers on it. I can recite the letter by heart, every single word. But I still unfolded it and read it, as if confirming something. Luna, I like you. From the day you sat behind me and borrowed my eraser until now, it's been 6 years. I've never told anyone. Every time you dropped your pen, I picked it up for you, not because it was convenient, but because it was the only way I could get close to you. When your fingertips brushed my palm as you took the pen, I would remember it all day. After we changed seats in senior year, I could hear you drop your pen even 2 rows away. Jake said I was sick. Maybe I am. For 4 years of college, I changed my preferences and chose Nanching just because you said you were going there too. The day you got your offer, I wanted to say don't go, but I only said congratulations. I'm a coward. I wrote this letter 4 times and I wasn't satisfied with any of them, but if I didn't write it down, I'd never be able to say it. So Luna, I like you. No matter where you are when you read this, who is by your side or what you think. I like you and I have liked you for 6 years. Noah. I looked at it for a long time, then folded it back up, put it in the envelope, and slipped it into my pocket. I didn't send it, but I didn't want to throw it away. Maybe one day I will send it. It was already dark when I walked out of the airport. The light pollution in the southern part of the city was too heavy to see any stars. I took out my phone and messaged her. Have you boarded? Just boarded. Okay. Noah. You called me just now? Did you have something to say? I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Yes, there was so much I wanted to say. No, just wanted to remind you to stay safe. Oh, message me when you land. Okay. Get some rest early. You too. I locked the screen and put my phone back in my pocket. The letter was still there, pressed against my left chest, hard and warm, like a heart that couldn't be spoken. Later, I wondered, if the letter hadn't fallen out that day, would everything have been different? Maybe it would have. Maybe we would have simply missed our chance. One going to England, the other staying in Nanching. Each living our own lives, slowly drifting apart. But the letter did fall. It fell from my pocket to the ground. Just like when she dropped her pen, only this time, she was the one who bent down to pick it up. Let me start from the beginning. She passed through security, turned back to say thank you, and then turned to leave. I called out her name. She stopped and looked back. I said, "Have a safe trip." She waited a few seconds, smiled, said, "Yeah, have a safe trip," then turned and continued walking. I stood there watching her receding figure, my hand still clutching the envelope, not taking it out. Then I let go. It wasn't intentional. My fingers had been clenched too tight and suddenly lost their strength. The envelope slipped through my fingers, tumbled out of my pocket, and fell to the ground with a very soft sound, almost inaudible in the noisy airport. But I heard it because it was the letter I had written 4 times, the words I had saved up for 6 years, the bravest yet most cowardly thing I have ever done in my life. I looked down. The letter lay on the ground, the word Luna, written on the white envelope. I bent down to pick it up, but someone was faster than me. "Noah, you dropped something." Her voice. I jerked my head up. She stood there. I didn't know when she had stopped, when she had turned back, or when she had walked back. She stood 3 or 4 meters away, holding my letter in her hand. She glanced down at the envelope, then looked up at me. That look, not surprise, not curiosity, not an inquiry of "what did you write?" was as if she had waited for a long time and finally received it. "This is," she said. I opened my mouth, my mind a complete blank. 6 years. 6 years worth of words were all in this letter. I wrote it 4 times, gripped it the whole way, and touched it countless times. I wanted to take it out in the taxi, wanted to take it out before security, wanted to take it out when she turned to leave. I never took it out. Now, the letter had come out on its own. "That's for you." My voice was so low I could barely hear it myself, but she heard it. She looked at the writing on the envelope. "Luna, you wrote this." "Yeah." "When did you write it?" "Before graduation." She looked at me, her fingers brushing the edge of the envelope. "Should I open it?" My heart skipped a beat. If she opened it, she would see every word inside and know everything. Then she might say, "Sorry, I only see you as a friend," and then she would fly halfway across the world with that answer. And then I wouldn't even be able to help her pick up a pen. "Don't," I said. She looked at me. "Don't open it." "Why?" "Because, if you read it now, you might not be able to bear to leave." That wasn't what I meant to say, it just slipped out. Uncontrollable. Like the letter falling from my pocket. She looked at me, and her eyes suddenly lit up. Not with "you're annoying" or "you're ridiculous," but with a brightness I had never seen in her eyes before. She lowered her head to look at the letter and fell silent for a few seconds. Then did something. She folded the letter. The envelope hadn't been sealed in the first place, so she tucked the exposed paper inside and folded it in half. Then she walked over and stopped in front of me, standing so close that I could smell the scent of her shampoo. She slipped the letter into the left pocket of my coat, where it had originally been. "Give it back to me in 3 years, she said. I froze. "What? 3 years? Give it to me when I come back in 3 years. "Why?" "Because I'm afraid that if I read it now," she looked at me, "I won't be able to bear leaving." I stood there, my mind reeling as if I'd been struck by a club. She said she was afraid that if she read my confession letter, she wouldn't be able to bear leaving, which meant, "Why do you think I kept dropping my pen?" she asked. "What?" "You're bad at math and always zone out. When you zone out, I want to poke you. But I can't keep poking you, so I spin my pen. I spin it and it drops. Then you turn around to help me pick it up." The light in her eyes grew brighter. "Why do you think I applied to Nanchang University? Didn't you say Nanchang has a good law program? Nanchang is ranked 5th. Beijing is ranked 2nd. She said, I applied to Nanjing because you said you were applying to Nanjing too. When did I say that? The day of the Gaokao, when we were signing our uniforms. You said you applied to Nanjing too. She looked at me. I've been waiting for those words all through senior year. The airport announcement was paging passengers for a flight. People around me were walking, running, hugging, crying. But I couldn't hear anything. Only her voice. Noah, I like you. I've liked you since the day I borrowed your eraser. She looked at me, tears falling, but she was smiling. Why don't you say something? I'm about to leave, and you still won't say it. I looked at her, her eyes red. The tip of her nose red too. I opened my mouth. 6 years. Every word I'd saved up over 6 years was in that letter. But now the letter wasn't enough. It couldn't hold everything I wanted to say. I like you too. She looked at me, another tear falling. I know. I've known for a long time. Then she glanced at the airport clock. I have to go. The plane is about to take off. 3 years. I'll come find you in 3 years. Give me the letter then. Okay. She turned and walked toward the boarding gate. After 2 steps, she stopped again. Noah. She turned back and walked backward 2 steps. Wait for me. Okay. You're not allowed to like anyone else. I won't. You're not allowed to pick up a pen for anyone else. I won't. She smiled, tears still clinging to her face, but her smile was radiant. 3 years. Then she turned and started running, her ponytail swaying behind her, her backpack straps loose, running exactly the way she did in high school. I stood there watching her run through security, run past the corner, and disappear into the crowd. But this time was different. This time she wasn't leaving. She was going to keep a 3-year promise. I lowered my head and touched my pocket. The letter was still there, hard and warm against my left chest. But this time was different. This time she knew the words inside the letter. I walked out of the airport and it was already dark. But this time it didn't feel so dark. I took out my phone and sent a message. 3 years. A few seconds later, she replied. 3 years. A few more seconds passed. Noah. Back at the airport. When you dropped the letter, did you actually feel relieved? I looked at the screen. Yes and no. I panicked the moment the letter fell, but when I picked it up, I felt calm instead. Because just because you don't say something doesn't mean others can't hear it. No. I was scared to death. Ha 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 ha. I thought you were going to open it right there on the spot. I thought about it, but I was afraid that if I read it, I wouldn't be able to leave. I was thinking the same thing. I know. So we were on the same page. I stared at the screen and smiled. See you in 3 years. See you in 3 years. Message me when you get there. Okay. Get some rest early. You too. And also, when you get to the UK, don't keep dropping your pen. She sent a rolling eyes emoji, then typed, no one is helping me pick it up anymore. Looking at that message, my heart felt both sour and sweet. I'll help you pick it up in 3 years. It's a promise. It's a promise. 1,095 days. I can wait that long. 3 years. 1,095 days. If you ask me how I spent these 3 years, I have only one answer. Video calls. We had our first video call the day after she arrived in London. It was 7 a.m. in London and 3 p.m. in Nanjing. She sat in her dorm, wrapped in a thick sweater, the tip of her nose red. It's so cold. Isn't it summer in London? London's summer is a lie. It's 20 degrees, raining, and windy. Where more? Okay. She looked at me. What about you? Is it hot in Nanjing? 37 degrees. Don't keep blowing the air conditioner. You'll catch a cold easily. Okay. A few seconds of silence. She was a bit blurry on the screen, but her eyes were very bright. Noah. Yeah. It's so strange, being half a world apart and still being able to see you. Yeah. Let's look at each other every day from now on. Okay? Okay. And then we really did look at each other every day, without missing a single one. In the first year, we called every afternoon at 3. The first thing she did when she woke up was turn on her computer, and I would find a conference room to sit in during my lunch break. We talked about her classes, my work, the weather in London, the traffic in Nanjing. We talked about anything as long as I could see her. The professor told a case study today that was absolutely ridiculous. What case? A person stole their neighbor's cat, gave it plastic surgery, and claimed it was their own cat. Plastic surgery for a cat? £30,000. A British person. Then the neighbor sued, and the court said the cat's DNA doesn't change, so the cat is still the neighbor's. But the neighbor has to pay for the surgery. On what grounds? Because the cat now looks like the neighbor's cat. The neighbor can't just take the cat back without paying. What kind of logic is that? British law. So sometimes I feel like what I'm studying makes absolutely no sense. Then why are you still studying? She looked at me and smiled. Because once I finish studying, I can come back. The next year, she started learning the dialect of my hometown. Once during a video call, my mom was speaking to me in the dialect nearby, and she heard it. What did you just say? Nothing. My mom just told me to go to sleep early. Not that sentence, the one before. The one before was also telling me to go to sleep early. Liar. You clearly said two different sentences. Fine. The first sentence asked if I had eaten. How do you say that in the dialect? I hesitated and said it once, and she repeated after me. Her pronunciation was completely wrong, sounding like she was speaking another language. I laughed, and she glared at me. What are you laughing at? Say it again. I said it again, and she repeated it. This time it was a bit better, but still very strange. No. The tone of the second character goes up. Goes up? Like this. No. I'm asking a question. I laughed for a long time. Later, she learned one sentence every day. I taught her, have you eaten yet? The weather is nice today. And finally, I miss you. She learned this sentence the fastest. Her pronunciation was the most accurate, without even a hint of an accent. Noah, listen to me. Yeah. I miss you. Did you say that in a dialect? Yeah. Listen to whether my pronunciation is accurate. Accurate. Not a hint of an accent. She smiled proudly. Then I'll speak it every day from now on. Good. You have to learn a sentence of English too. Learn what? Miss you. Is it that simple? Simple is easier to remember, just like the dialect you taught me. Simple is the most sincere. I looked at her on the screen. She looked at me. Miss you, I said. She smiled. Your pronunciation isn't quite right. The S should be a bit lighter. Miss you. Still not right. Forget it. Take your time practicing. When I've practiced it well, you can check me. Okay. Check every day. In the third year, I started learning to cook. Once during a video call, she was eating takeout. Eating takeout again? No time to cook. Thesis is due. Eating takeout every day isn't healthy. Then you cook for me. Her tone was casual, like she was joking, but I took it seriously. After hanging up the video call, I opened my phone to search for recipes. She loved sweet and sour pork ribs. She ate it at window number 3 in the high school cafeteria for 3 years. I bought pork tenderloin, vinegar, and sugar. The first time I burned it, the second time it was too sour, and the third time it was too sweet. When I made it for the fourth time, I video called her. What are you doing? Cooking. You know how to cook? I'm learning. What are you making? Sweet and sour pork ribs. She paused for a moment. You're making sweet and sour pork ribs? Yeah. Why? Because you love it. She didn't say anything. I propped my phone up on the kitchen counter, heated the wok, poured in the oil, and added the marinated pork tenderloin. The oil splattered and I recoiled. Be careful, she shouted. It's fine. I flipped them, took them out of the wok, mixed the sauce and poured it over. The final dish didn't look great. The color was dark and the shape was crooked. I held the plate up to the camera. How does it look? She stared at the screen for a few seconds. It looks. I know it looks awful. I was going to say it looks delicious. Her voice sounded a bit muffled. Why are you crying? I'm not crying. Your eyes are red. The wind in London is strong. Where do you get wind in the dorm? Noah. She cut me off. Yeah. For the sweet and sour pork tenderloin you made, save a portion for me. Save it until when? 3 years from now when I come back to eat it. Okay. Later, I learned to cook many dishes. Sweet and sour ribs, braised fish, tomato and egg soup. Every time I learned one, I showed her. I made braised fish today. Much better than last time, at least the fish is intact. It didn't fall apart that badly last time either. Noah. The fish head fell off. Later. The fridge was plastered with recipes for dishes she loved. Each one labeled, Luna loves this. My colleagues asked why I brought lunch every day and it was always such elaborate dishes, asking if I had a girlfriend. I said no. They didn't believe me. I don't explain. I don't want to explain that I season every dish I make according to your taste. Nor do I want to explain why I don't go to after-work gatherings, play games, or socialize, but instead come home to cook, because I am waiting for someone to come back for dinner. Noah. After I come back, I'll eat the food you cook every day. Okay. I'll eat every single dish you make, even the burnt ones. There are moments from these 3 years that I remember. In the winter of the first year, during heavy snow in London, she moved her computer to the window to show me the snow. Since it doesn't snow in Nanching, she said she would take me to see it later. In the summer of the second year, I worked overtime until dawn and returned to the rental room. I turned on my computer and found she hadn't slept yet. She was writing her thesis. I told her not to stay up too late, and she said the same to you. Then neither of us slept. We did our own things across the screen, occasionally looking up to glance at each other. In the spring of the third year, after passing her thesis defense, she ran around campus holding up her phone to show me the cherry blossoms in London, saying they weren't as beautiful as those in Nanching. I said the cherry blossoms in Nanching aren't as beautiful as you. She paused for a second and smiled. Noah, when did you become so good with words? It's contagious from you. But there was bitterness as well. Once, she was sick with a fever, alone in the dormitory. Did you see a doctor? I went and got medicine. Did you take it? I took it. Drink plenty of water. I looked at her on the screen, wrapped in a quilt, face flushed, hair messy, wanting to pour her some water, tuck her in, feel her forehead to see if the fever had gone down. But I couldn't do anything. I could only say drink plenty of water across the screen. What useless 3 words. Noah. Don't make that face. What face? Frowning. I know you're blaming yourself as soon as you frown. You're thinking that if only you were by my side, it would be better, right? I didn't speak. I was thinking the same. If only you were here, you'd definitely cook me tomato and egg soup. When I get back, you'll cook it for me every day. Okay. It's a promise. It's a promise. There was another time on my birthday. I worked overtime until 11, returned to my rental room, and turned on the computer. She had already sent 3 video requests. I answered, "Why are you just getting online? Working overtime. Working overtime on your birthday? The project is rushing to meet the deadline. Noah, happy birthday." She held up a small cake with a candle stuck in it. What time is it there? 3 in the morning. 3 in the morning and you're not asleep yet. Waiting for you. I calculated the time difference. 11 o'clock your side is 3 in the morning my side. I wanted to be the first to say happy birthday to you on your birthday. I looked at her on the screen at 3 in the morning, eyes a bit swollen, hair messy, but smiling very happily. Blow out the candle. There isn't one here. Then blow towards the screen, and I'll make a wish for you. What did you wish for? Not telling you. If I say it out loud, it won't come true. I blew at the screen, and the candle on her end went out. There, wish made. What did you wish for? She smiled. I can tell you. It has to do with you. Luna. I miss you too. She paused for a moment. Your pronunciation is spot on. Not a hint of an accent. 3 years. 1,095 days. Separated by 8,000 kilometers, a 7-hour time difference, and a screen, yet we never lost touch. She learned my hometown dialect, and I learned her favorite dishes. We could talk about anything, as long as I could hear her voice. Near the end of the third year, during a video call, she suddenly said, Noah, I'm coming back next month. I froze. Next month? My thesis passed, And the paperwork is done. So soon. Soon. She smiled. It's been 3 years. I looked at the screen. Compared to 3 years ago, she was a bit thinner and her hair had grown longer, but her eyes were still bright. Noah. Is the letter still there? I patted my pocket. The letter was there. I'd had it with me every day for 3 years. It is. Good. Give it back to me when you return. Okay. And, can you make sweet and sour pork now? I can. Really? It won't be burnt. It won't be burnt. Then I want to eat it when I get back. Okay. And braised fish. Okay. Tomato and egg soup. Okay. And, just how much are you planning to eat? She laughed. I'm making up for 3 years' worth of missed meals. On the day she returned, the first rain of the summer fell in the southern city. It wasn't heavy, just a fine drizzle. I changed into 3 shirts in front of the mirror. The white one was too formal, like for a job interview. The gray one was too dark, like for a funeral. The blue one, she had said I looked good in blue. Once in college, when I wore a blue t-shirt to the cafeteria, she glanced at me and said, Noah, wear blue more often. Why? It looks good. Just 2 words. I've remembered them for 3 years. I put on a blue shirt and headed out. It was still raining and I didn't have an umbrella. Not that I forgot, but there wasn't time. I set 3 alarms last night and woke up at 4. I lay there until 5, then couldn't stay in bed any longer. So I got up and cooked a whole spread. Sweet and sour pork ribs, braised fish, tomato and egg soup. I cooked the rice twice. The first time it was too soft, the second time just right. I packed it into a thermal box and put it in the fridge for tonight. First, go pick her up. The letter was in my pocket. 3 years had passed. The envelope was old, its corners frayed, and the ink of the word Luna had faded a little, but I hadn't changed the envelope. It was the very one she had stuffed back into my pocket 3 years ago. Untouched. She told me to give it back after 3 years, and I waited 3 years, not a day less. Before leaving, I found a piece of A3 cardboard from the office and a black marker. I wrote it many times. The first time it was crooked. The second time the letters were too small. The third time I took a deep breath and wrote, stroke by stroke, Luna, I'm ready. Now I'm giving the letter back to you. After writing it, something felt off, so I added a line in smaller letters. And sweet and sour pork ribs. It was only 7 in the morning when I got to the airport. Her flight doesn't land until 11. 4 hours early, but I wanted to come. I want to wait for her at the arrivals gate, just like in high school when I'd arrive 20 minutes early every day to wait for her to come in through the back door. Just like in college when I'd save a seat to wait for her to come eat after class. Just like these past 3 years when I turn on my computer at 3 every afternoon to wait for her video call. Waiting for her. It seems I've always been waiting for her. From the day she sat at the desk behind me, I've been waiting for her to poke me, borrow an eraser, drop her pen, look back at me. I've waited 9 years, and today, finally, I don't have to wait anymore. More and more people gathered at the arrivals exit. Some holding flowers, some holding signs, some craning their necks to look inside. I stood in the crowd holding up a cardboard sign. Luna, I'm ready. Now I'm giving the letter back to you. A girl next to me glanced at me and smiled. Did you write that? Yeah. So sweet. Your girlfriend is going to be so happy. She's not my girlfriend yet. Huh? Then you... Soon. She smiled and I smiled too. 8 o'clock. 9 o'clock. 10 o'clock. 10:30. On the flight information screen, her status changed from in flight to landed. My heart was beating fast. Just as fast as when I saw her off 3 years ago. No, even faster. Because 3 years ago I was sending her away, and today I'm waiting for her to come back. The arrivals gate opened. Business people, elderly couples, mothers holding children. I stared at everyone, looking at them one by one. Not her. Still not her. 11:12. I saw her. She came out of the arrivals gate pushing a luggage cart with stickers on the 2 large suitcases. There were a few new ones added to those from 3 years ago. She had lost a little weight, and her hair had grown much longer, draped over her shoulders instead of tied in a ponytail. But her eyes were still bright. She looked around, searching for me. I raised the sign. Luna, I am ready. Now I am returning the letter to you. She froze for a second. Then she smiled. Not a polite, courteous smile, but the kind that starts in the eyes, spreads to the corners of the mouth, and lights up the entire face. It was the kind of smile I had watched for 9 years and never got enough of. She pushed the cart 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, then abandoned it and started running. The crowd parted to make way, and she ran fast, her long hair flying behind her, just like her high school ponytail. She ran past people holding flowers, people holding signs, and everyone who was waiting, running towards me. I put down the sign and opened my arms. She threw herself into my arms, with such force that we both took a step back. She hugged my waist, burying her face in my chest, and I could feel her trembling. Noah. Yeah. I'm back. Yeah. It's been 3 years. Yeah. She looked up at me, her eyes red but she was smiling, tears falling as she smiled. Noah. In these 3 years, did you miss me even more than I missed you? I looked at her. Her eyes, the tip of her nose, the corners of her mouth, that tiny mole on her face. I've looked at her for 9 years, in the classroom, in the cafeteria, on the playground, on a screen. Now she stood before me, not her back, not a screen, not a memory, but her. Real, alive, within reach. Not more than you, I said. Just enough to catch up with you. She froze for a second, then laughed as tears fell again. Noah, when did you get so good with words? It's contagious from you. She let go of me and wiped her tears. The letter. What? The letter. It's been 3 years. You should give it back to me. I smiled, reached into my pocket, and pulled out that letter. The envelope was worn, the corners frayed, the ink faded, but the letter was still there. 3 years every day. I handed it to her. She took it, her fingers brushing my palm. Just like in high school, just like in college, nothing had changed. She looked at the envelope and rubbed the corners. You've kept it with you all this time? Yeah. For 3 years. Yeah. Every day. Every day. She smiled, lowered her head, and opened the envelope. As she unfolded the letter, she glanced at the top and looked at me. Your handwriting is so ugly. But, she looked at the letter. It's written beautifully. She read it from beginning to end. When she saw, every time you dropped your pen, I picked it up for you. She smiled a little. When she saw, after we changed seats in senior year, I could hear you drop your pen even 2 rows away. She sniffled. When she saw, I changed my college preference to Nanching just because you said you were going there too. She bit her lip. When she reached the end, she pressed the letter against her chest, said nothing, and just looked at me. Noah, she said. You wrote a letter and I waited 3 years. Now I've finished reading it. And then, she stood on tiptoe and kissed me on the cheek. Very light as when her fingertips brushed my palm as she took the pen, but I'll remember it for the rest of my life. People around us applauded. The girl next to me gave me a thumbs up, and someone was taking photos. I felt a bit embarrassed. She smiled. Let's go home. Home. Yeah, to your place. Didn't you cook a whole table of food? How did you know? You wrote it on your sign, and there's sweet and sour pork tenderloin. I looked down at the cardboard lying on the ground, stepped on but the words still legible. Luna, I'm ready. Now I'm returning the letter to you, and there's sweet and sour pork tenderloin. I smiled and pulled her luggage cart. She walked beside me just like in high school, except back then she was behind me, and now she's by my side. The rain stopped as we left the airport. That's how summers in Nanching are. A shower falls, and the sun comes right out. The sunlight hit her face and she squinted. So hot. 37 degrees. It's only 20 degrees in London. Welcome back. She smiled. On the way home, she leaned on my shoulder. The taxi played old songs, and she hummed along, just like on the way to the airport 3 years ago. But this time she wasn't leaving. She was coming back. Noah. Do you remember the first day of high school? I do. I borrowed your eraser. Yeah. And you helped me pick up my pen. Yeah. I thought back then, she closed her eyes, I have to marry this man. I was stunned. You thought that way back in high school? Yeah. Then why didn't you say anything? You didn't say anything either, did you? She opened her eyes. We were both cowards, each more than the other. I'm not a coward. You're not a coward? She laughed. You wrote a letter, held it the whole way, and touched it countless times. But in the end, it only fell out by itself. If it weren't for that letter falling out, she said, I might really have left. I looked at her and suddenly felt a wave of fear. If the letter hadn't fallen out that day, if she hadn't looked back, don't think about it, she said, as if she knew what I was thinking. The letter fell out. I looked back, and we're together. Yeah. That's enough. Yeah. She leaned back on my shoulder again. Noah. Yeah. In the future, if I drop my pen, will you still pick it up for me? I will. For a lifetime? For a lifetime. She smiled. It's a promise. That night we sat at the dining table. Sweet and sour pork, braised fish, tomato and egg soup, and the rice was perfect on the second try. She picked up a piece of sweet and sour pork, chewed it, and looked at me. It looks better than in the video. Of course, I've been practicing for 3 years. It's better than the cafeteria food too. Really? Really? She picked up another piece. I ate the sweet and sour pork from window 3 in the high school cafeteria for 3 years, and always thought it was the best in the world. And now it's the second best in the world. Who's first? What you make. She smiled. Because you made it. I looked at her, and something in my heart finally settled firmly. 9 years. From the day she sat behind me and borrowed an eraser until now. I finally don't have to look at her across seats, don't have to listen for her dropping a pen 2 rows away, don't have to miss her through a screen, don't have to clutch an undeliverable letter in my pocket. She was sitting right across from me, eating the food I made, smiling at me. After the meal, she helped me clear the dishes, but I stopped her. I'll do it. Let me help. You just got back, go rest. It's just washing dishes. I'll do it. She glanced at me and smiled. Noah, when did you become so bossy? I caught it from you. How am I bossy? When you said, then you make it for me to eat. That was a joke. I took it seriously. She paused, then smiled. Noah, From now on, I'll cook and you wash the dishes. Okay. I'll sweep and you'll mop. Okay. If I drop my pen, you pick it up. Okay. For a lifetime. A lifetime. That night she slept in the guest room. I stood at the door watching her sleep. She was curled up on her side, hands tucked under the quilt, breathing softly. It was different from high school, when I could only steal glances from the front row, or pretend to look at the blackboard while catching her profile in my peripheral vision when she was napping at her desk. Now I could stand at the door and watch her openly, without sneaking, without pretending, without the fear of being discovered. I went back to my room and sat by the bed. My pocket was empty. The letter was gone. It was with her. I lowered my head and smiled. I lay down staring at the ceiling. From next door came the sound of her turning over, very soft, but I heard it, just like how I could hear her drop a pen from 2 rows away in senior year. My ears seemed to have grown just for her, capable of hearing only her. The next morning I woke up first and went to the kitchen to make tomato and egg soup. When she came out, her hair was messy and her eyes weren't fully open. Morning. Morning. You made breakfast? Yeah, tomato and egg soup. She sat down and took a sip. It's good. Of course it is, I said. She smiled. Noah. I'll make it every day from now on. Okay. Later, I thought our story was actually quite simple. She borrowed an eraser from me. I picked up a pen for her. I dropped a letter and I waited 3 years. She came back and I held up a sign. That's all. Nothing earth-shattering or tumultuous, but it was enough. Because for some people, you don't need earth-shattering gestures. You only need to bend down and pick up the pen when she drops it, call out her name when she walks away, and hold up a sign when she returns. And then say, I'm ready.